notices.
Morning, Craig.
Craig will help us with this.
Okay. For jurisdictional documents, to start out, we had the hearing notice mailed to landowners on November 13th, 2018. Hearing notice was published in the Mankato Free Press on November 15th, 2018. The purpose of this hearing is to determine if the Dave Halston Excavating of Edgerton, Minnesota has completed the contract for the improvement of County Ditch 78 in accordance with the plans and specifications. To also determine if the state of Minnesota has certified the contractor's IC 134 showing the contractor has fulfilled all the requirements of Minnesota statutes 290.92 and 270C.66. If so, to determine the board acting as a drainage authority for County Ditch 78 shall order the payment of the balance due on the contract. And that's it for jurisdictional documents.
Okay. Just a quick question or comment, I guess. I'm just looking at the board packet. So everything has been paid except for $21,003.46. It's asking for final payment and also confirmation that everything is completed.
And that'll be part of the engineer's report.
Okay. So we've got Chuck Brandel here, and he's our engineer that worked on this project. Welcome, Chuck.
Good morning.
Morning, Chuck.
I've got a short presentation, a summary of our final acceptance report that we've submitted. Like Craig said, Holstein Construction, they did most of the work back in 2016. We had a punch list for them late in 2016. They didn't finish the final work until early this year, and then we didn't get the final documents that all their subs have been paid till recently. So it took a little while. They did get most of the work done, but there were some correctional items that were done early this year. If you recall, the 78 watershed is just over 9,000 acres. The red line shown on the map on the screen, but this project only worked on branch 1, lateral B, and lateral C inside of the square box. So the improvement consisted of deepening the branch 1 open ditch, replacing a shallow 26-inch tile with a 48-inch tile. Due to very low ground and lack of depth, we put in a 48-inch tile at the bottom of the ditch, oversized it slightly, knowing that there'd be some water in it at most of the time because of depth for cover. And then shortly after that, we ran a 42-inch line up to where branch 1 and lateral C split. Lateral C was extended as a 30-inch line. Branch 1 was extended underneath a gas line into the east as a 24-inch line. And then lateral B was also added. That was the improvement. All of that work has been completed. We did put in a dual culvert system on the open ditch to control some of the peak flows offset by the improvement. We did complete full as-built of the improvement that will become the new legal record upon if you accept the project. As part of the acceptance hearing, we asked that the existing branch 1, lateral C, and lateral B tiles that were replaced are abandoned. Thus, the new lines that were put adjacent to them will be the new county lines. The existing tile will be abandoned and will be private tile. So we do have an abandonment map that is part of the report. Zooming in, the purplish pink lines represent the proposed line, and the blue lines represent the lines that would be abandoned as part of the project. Here's a few pictures of construction. You can see the deepening and widening of the open ditch occurring in this picture. Here's installation of the 42-inch tile. You can see the sand that goes on the top and the side of it. They used what was called a spoon bucket, so there's a round bottom, so that pipe fits in there nice and tight, so there's really nowhere for it to move. actually, Sellers Construction was subcontracted through Holstein to do some of that work. Just showing how we do some of the intakes on the system. Then after a large rain event, most of the sediment did stay out, but how much sediment during a large event is caught on some of these intakes. Here are some of the pictures from the televising. All of these areas were repaired. There was a gasket in the pipe. There are a few minor deflections, a few other deflections. There's a rock in the pipe. There was an area where there was a crushed T, a little damage on a joint. Another piece of concrete tile that was left in the pipe. So all of those areas were corrected this spring. There were some other punch list items with grading, some grading in the fields and a few other grading items. The original estimate from the final engineer's report had a construction cost of $643,000 approximately. If this contract is paid out in full, we're at $584,689. We've held back $21,003.46. So we'd recommend paying that $21,000. We did receive all of the IC-134 information from the subcontractors saying that they have been paid, and all the punch list items were done. It did take a long time for those to be done. We are seeing that this is becoming a little bit of a routine that contractors are not coming back and finalizing projects. By state statute, we can only hold 5% retainage. So we've been doing that as much as we can to force them to come back and do kind of their cleanup items. But this one took 18 months. It should have taken 6 months. Included in the report is a final damage summary. So all of the areas, we had a few areas on the north end of the project where the ditch was widened, where we took a little bit of extra farmland. So those will be paid out as permanent damages per the viewer's report. And then we had temporary damages where the construction occurred, and we have those tallied for each 40 that the project has crossed. So we have about 27 acres on branch 1, plus 0.6 acres of permanent damages, and then 1.39 acres of damages on lateral B, and 5 acres on lateral C. So 33.79 acres of total damages to be paid out, plus 0.59 permanent damages. So at this time, we recommend accepting the project. What that does is it abandons the existing tile that are there, accepts the new alignment, and then approves final payment. But the other purpose of the hearing is to see if there's any comments from landowners, if there's anything that we missed that we didn't have. We have at least one landowner here, so if there is anything we need to cover, I want to make sure that we get their input. So,
I also just want to ask you again, the total amount then is $584,689.
correct.
Is that the total complete amount?
That is the total amount paid to the contractor. There are some other, that doesn't include the damages, it doesn't include our administration fees or any other fees that you have. That is the total amount for the contractor.
Okay.
But we're about $60,000 under budget with what we estimated at the time of the bid. We got really good bids at this time. We didn't really have any major change orders or any overruns. So we actually ran under on our tile.
Yeah, there's like a $9,000 change order or something like that.
Yeah, but we're still under the original bid. So.
Okay, would you like me to open it up now? Or would you like to ask Chuck some questions?
I'm okay.
All right. Okay, we can always ask you some more questions.
Chuck, we're pretty assured then that did you happen to run a camera after those so-called improvements were done then? Because, you saw all the damage done, the squishing of did we do an after camera thing to verify that all the damage is taken care of?
We have somebody on site when they're doing those repairs to make sure that they're done. So they see the exposed pipe. We typically don't camera the pipe after that unless we have a significant
Unless you got a reason for it.
Yeah. But we have somebody on site that's verifying that
the pipe was plastic.
Yeah, this is dual wall plastic.
Right. Which is the reason it warped and...
Potentially, there could have been a rock in the excavation that pushed down. They could have not put as much sand as they wanted, or got their compactor when they're backfilling a little too close to the pipe. There's a few things that can cause that. The pipe manufacturers that I've talked to said if something's going to happen, it's going to happen fairly quickly. If it's a construction default, we televise this over a year afterward. So if anything was going to move around, it would have done that. So.
And how many miles televised?
The total length on the pipe, I can't recall off the top of my head. 1 second. Let's see. So we had 50, 42, about 6,500 plus or minus, so a little over a mile. This is a fairly small project compared to some of the other ones we've got going on.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
And this started the process about 3 years ago, didn't it, for this, at least? Maybe longer.
The process for this was more than 3 years ago. The construction was bid in 2015. Construction occurred in 2016, and we've been kind of pushing with some threats to get the project done. We were going to use the retainage and hire somebody else if the contractor didn't get
Using...
Yes.
I understand what you're saying, talking about getting the contractor to come back and fix it. Can we use that next time we ask for a bid and saying you didn't complete this in time and we're not going to accept your bid?
We could use that as a reason not to. You have to have reasons during the public bidding process. That would be a reason that they were a non-responsive contractor.
Okay, that's good to know, and I think contractors need to understand that this might affect their ability to bid for another project within Blue Earth County.
Yes, there are some contractors that will follow their work immediately with cleanup, grading, tilling, ripping, things like that. And other contractors leave it, come back, and they have a functioning system. They just don't have everything cleaned up.
When we do contracts, that might not be a bad thing to put into the contract, that if with this type of extension, if it goes beyond 6 months, that's going to give Blue Earth County a reason not to accept a bid from you in the future.
Correct. There are some things that do, we want to televise the system after it's been in place for a little while. So if we have a lot of runoff, snow we may have to delay it a little bit, but as long as they're responsive.
Yeah, I mean,
contractors have been good.
if it's all done in goodwill and then we understand it, but if they're just...
18 months is plenty of time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we move on to the public portion of the public hearing portion of the meeting here? I'm going to open up for a public hearing here on the County Ditch 78. If there's anybody here from the landowners or anybody else that's concerned about this project, or if it was completed properly, please come to the podium and state your name and your address and give us some comments or questions, whatever you'd like to do.
I am Larry Bennett. I live at 1807 Mary Lane in North Mankato. Never could talk my wife into going too far. But I just have a question.
Yeah.
Have you closed off the old line that goes into the ditch, open ditch?
The old line is connected up to the new line. So it is connected up, if I may, right here. There's a cross connect here. It is also connected on the property line. So that old line is still functioning. But we did connect on the east side, the new line's on the west side. There were some tile that we did cross-connect across, but they are interconnected in multiple spots. So one of the main one on your property, there's one here, and there's one here.
Yeah, because there's some tile that comes right down there.
Yep.
And hooks onto the old one.
And then it's connected right here.
Put down there. Okay. Oh,
Quick question then, are you talking about, when you say old line, is that considered abandoned line then also?
Correct. So now it is, and I'll go to the map.
No, it's that green one you had highlighted at one point.
So we're zoomed in. Mr. Bennett's property is right here. The original branch 1 line is on the north is to the left, is on the east side. Just before the property line, we did a cross connect. And what that does is it connects the old line to the new line. And there are some private tile that are coming into the old line that will be routed through. Essentially, your private tile has extended to what is connected into the new line. So, and we do have all of those that we've found located on the as-built too.
all right, thanks.
That's it?
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Is there anybody else here that would like to get up and say a few words about the project? Have any questions or concerns for ditch number 78? One more time I'll ask, if there's anybody else who'd like to get up and ask a question or make any comments regarding Blue Earth County Ditch 78 project. Okay. Well, I'm going to close the public comment portion of the hearing and bring it back to the board then for further discussion and action.
I'll move approval of the... Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval from Commissioner Brunder and a second from Commissioner People for approval of the findings, to confirm the findings from him in order to pay the final payment.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain from voting because this system serves my farm.
Okay, so Commissioner, let the record show Commissioner Purvis is going to abstain from the vote because his farm is also serviced in this watershed for ditch 78. And I just want to mention too that that abandonment of those lines, I had a similar question. I was just wondering what happened with all those lines. I mean, you're just going to kind of leave them there for if they're still working, you'll just leave them alone and they'll connect in with the new pipe. And then if they fail or something, they're just left then. They're just
Correct. There are a few areas where we did go across it with tile that were on the east side. Otherwise, it acts as a private header. It also, from an elevation standpoint, the new line is floor, the old line is up here. It does provide some drainage right above the construction area.
Okay.
But it is now a private. If you accept this, it would be a private line. And the public line would be the new 48, 42.
And that means that we would be responsible for the old line. It's legally abandoned.
Any maintenance of that would be privately done. That would be private.
Right. Any other comments?
Nope, I don't have any questions.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So that's for our ditch stuff this morning. So now we're bringing it back to the board meeting here today, and our next item of business we've got, of course, is our Blue Earth County Human Services monthly report with Phil Clausen, our Director of Human Services.
Morning, Phil.
Morning, Phil. Morning.
Thank you.
I don't see Darren here today.
No,
so-
he actually sent an email late last night. I don't know if he's ill or if something came up, but
Okay.
he said he wasn't able to come
Darren
today, so
Walker.
I might just look at those notes real
I
quick.
hope you can handle it okay.
I'll see if I can make it through. Yeah.
Well, I know they've got a new system there, that they have longer meetings now, so more.
Yes, so it's very, and we had a really good meeting. It was about child protection. You all have been involved. We were talking at break about some of this, and so we're trying to keep that on the front burner, make sure the community is as aware as possible of the process that we use, and if there's ways we can improve that, we want to keep that dialogue going. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I have some action items to start with. In your packet, you'll see the first section is under Children and Family Services with one contract for Associated Psychological Services. This agency provides our parenting capacity assessments, and it is with parents involved in child protection services. The agency also provides anger management, class chemical dependency evaluation, psychological testing, and therapy supports for the parents' case plan. So we're also able to help the parents as well as evaluate the parenting itself. This is a renewal contract with Associated Psychological, and there are no changes in the fees. The term is January 1st of 19 through December 31st of 2020. The next, yes, very happy. This is a hard practice. It's one where you have to try to assess the capacity and the abilities of a parent. It's a kind of assessment that is subjective in some ways, and you try to make it also to have objective components. But yeah, we have been happy with their service. Administrative services, MRCI document scanning contract. I think the board's aware of this really important service and partnership we have with MRCI WorkSource to provide document imaging services through people associated with MRCI. It fulfills our mandate on record retention, which I heard was talked about earlier. And in the past year, we've also expanded the service to taxpayer services, highway, and county administration. This is also a renewal contract with a 2% increase based on labor costs. The term is January 1st of 19 through December 31st of 19. In the last section, community-based services, there are several items. The first two are detox contracts. Our primary provider, Brown County Evaluation Center, Commissioner Purvis is heavily involved in that mission. We have a rate going up from $411 per day to $430. It's a 4.63% increase. And the term of our contract with Brown County Evaluation Center is January 1st of 19 through December 31st of 19. We also have a backup contract with Woodland Centers, which is the next item. This is really our secondary resource when our facility is full, and our daily rate there is $550, so considerably more. They have a couple other services for crisis, both for adults and youth. We do not use those very often, but it is a nice resource to have included in the contract. The term January 1st of 19 through December 31st of 19.
Well, that's quite a difference, isn't it?
It is, and it is one of those issues that I think with Brown County that we do, when you look at rates of detox and the fact that a number of detoxes around the state have closed, that we have a resource in our region that is pretty valuable to us. And even though even $400 a day is expensive, when you look at comparative rates, they're very competitive. Yeah.
I think another detox just closed.
Yeah.
Dakota County?
Was it? Yeah. Was it Dakota? Yes, I think you're right.
So.
Yeah. And there is, I should say to the board, just because we're at that place of what they now call, I kind of came up with calling it chemical health or chemical dependency services, but the new term that you'll see a lot about is SUD, substance use disorder. That's the category, so people will talk about, well, SUD reform. And there is a big reform going on that I think is affecting a lot of the detox, from detox all the way through the intensive services that are offered in chemical health. And so that is going to be a hot topic, I think, for a number of years. And there is talk about trying to bring detox payment, though, for Brown County into the MA service set. So if that could happen, I think we could stabilize some of the funding, because this has all been, as you well know, direct levy dollars in the past. So at least for medical detox. The final item also related to Rule 25 assessments. This is one of the major changes that is coming. We happened to align well with this process where we've asked a number of facilities to provide assessments. The state's going to put a real emphasis on access, and so they want multiple choices throughout a community. And the yellow line really caused us to do this, to contract out, and now it's, I believe, will be a requirement in the end that we contract out. So it just happened that it worked out well, and we were a year ahead of the curve. The agreements here in this item represent 5 different providers, but I did group them together just for ease. Each one has their own contract for Rule 25 assessments, which is the chemical health assessment that we provide. It does cover county financial responsibility, so people in our county are our responsibility regardless of where they hail from. And then our rate on these went from $150 per assessment to $155, which is a 3.3% increase. Still is a low average compared to other neighboring counties who do contract for this service. The term is January 1st of 19 through December 31st of 19 for all these entities, and they are House of Hope, Christian Family Solutions, Open Door, Addictions and Recovery Technology, ART, we usually refer to them, and New Ulm Medical Center are our 5 providers.
Quick question, if
Yeah.
it's okay, Phil. Just wondering, we have our own chemical dependency counselor, don't we? 2 of them or just 1?
Right, so Jesse Hornick, who is our community-based coordinator for Yellow Line, is a Rule 25 assessor. Michael Kirkwood on the juvie side also can do that work, and then Leslie Deco has also been trained in that, so there's a number of folks that can do a Rule 25 assessment, but we do, our standard practice is to offer it out to the contract first, and we can do those on a backup if we need to, like an emergency one, or somebody's in jail at times and something's pending and we have to get an assessment done. We have made exceptions, but our practice has kind of changed to go to the contracts first, and then
So we don't really
back
provide
side.
those services like we used to.
Right.
Because we
And-
used to have somebody just doing it full-time.
Exactly. So back in the days of Alfac, and then these folks that I mentioned, that was their full-time job. That is part of the change, the philosophy change, is that they don't want it to be centralized. They want people to have choices of provider, and so I think that will be a mandate as we go forward, probably in the next year or so. That'll go into effect, is what I expect.
Okay.
And those are the action items I had for tonight.
I'll move the action items.
Second. Okay, we've got a motion for approval from our people and a second from Commissioner Brunder. Are there any comments or questions about these?
Like the dependency, the Brown County and Woodland Centers, what kind of numbers are we looking at lately? Or
Ooh, that's a really good question. I know
they're down, I assume.
Right.
Not as,
I can tell you a broad number for our detox costs has historically been around $500,000, so $500,000. With Yellow Line, we really didn't target this population, but we saw a reduction of a fifth. So about $1 million down from that has been our standard last
About
2
a
years.
fifth?
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
I'm lost there.
So 5 million, and now we're down to 4 million a year for detox.
Really?
Just
That's
500,000?
500, I'm sorry, what did I say?
$100,000.
Oh, I mixed up my zeros. So 500,000, thank you, Bob, to 400,000.
I see.
Yes,
Okay.
not million.
Yeah.
Sorry. But if you guys would like to give us more money, we certainly can. No, I apologize for that. So 500,000
Yeah.
has been our kind of high average, and then the last 2 years, we've seen the $400,000 level. So $100,000 savings each year. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
some of those people can use their insurance or not?
Yes, absolutely. So recovery of insurance is part of detox, so we do try to bill. That's part of what I was just talking about with Brown County, is if that becomes, it's probably what they're going to call medical detox. You have to have a need, a primary medical need for detox. But if that's the case, that can get paid for. Historically, it's always been, and it's a little bit of a unique one, is wherever somebody is located in need of detox, that county pays. So if somebody's visiting their friend at MSU and has too much to drink and needs to go to detox, we pay. That's how that's worked. This change is if that can be brought into the MA service set, when you talk about some primary health like Blue Cross has historically paid, and I believe their current status is that they've withdrawn that payment. But if we can get it into MA, then that is that right, Will?
I see. Oh, okay. Especially if somebody's got a recurring problem, they've been diagnosed at sudden have an issue with this.
Right, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And then just a passion point of mine is that detox is such a great entry point that regardless of what, that becomes called or what title we put on it, the mission of Brown County Evaluation Center is that front door. And I think from that place you have a bit of a captive audience. You have proof that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And I hope we can be, more and more aggressive and smart, sophisticated about the way we serve those people at that front door.
Yeah. Just mentioning real quick, if I could, since we're on here. I just happened to be up at the Justice Center last week, and they had 3 or 4 counties coming in, and Jesse, is it?
Yeah.
Another woman that's been
right.
involved with the Yellow Line.
And Molly. Yep.
Molly.
Right.
And they were doing a training session, 3 or 4 counties.
Yeah, so Mr. Commissioner Campbell, that actually was that these other counties that have kind of adopted some of the Yellow Line philosophies in the region and really throughout the state have hired the Jesse and Molly's that we have. We call them community-based coordinators. And so a number of counties have hired that similar position. And so what we offer to do is just try to have them all get together, meet, and talk about how that works in that kind of new role that was created through the Yellow Line, but that there's some replication to it, which was part of the hope, is that if a good idea spreads, that's a good deal. So, there were several counties that have hired, including our surrounding counties of Nicollet. LeSueur is going to have one, Brown, and then Crow Wing, up in Carlton. Those are some other counties that are very active.
Isn't that something, guys? I think that's pretty cool.
Not only will they learn best practices from us, but we in turn can learn what they might have found out with theirs and help our practices.
Right.
What that whole thing is getting together and having those kind of meetings are all about.
Absolutely, Commissioner. I feel like we've been in this trench too, and already, you kind of cling to what you've learned along the way. But you get a little myopic, you get kind of small in your view, and so your point is that we hear these other projects stand up and they say, well, we're going to do it slightly different. And you learn from that. It's absolutely a dynamic process of sharpening both ways. And so to have peers, and not to mention for a long time it was Jesse alone, and the one-person band is not a good way to run a program. And so her having a partner in Molly, but then having this dynamic the Commissioner talks about, really bringing us to a different place. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to sidetrack this too much, but I just thought
Good stuff.
good for the board to know about it too. And I didn't know about it unless I had been there.
Right.
And then I happened to see one of the counties, I think it was Brown County, wandering around there up on the second floor. Didn't know where to meet, and I knew where they were meeting, so I got them directed to the right room. That's right. So anyway.
I appreciate that. No, that was a kind of a big deal, and it is symbolic of some success in what you've all supported in the Yellow Line. Absolutely.
Excuse me then, Phil, we didn't vote on this.
We didn't vote.
So, anything else anybody would like to say? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, a couple of pretty straightforward data points here to share with you, walk through quickly, and some comments just about the lay of the land in these service areas. First slide, family daycare licensing, and the 2 arrows at the top of that slide show the newly licensed homes, which have been stable over the past 2 years, but prior to that, I think we had more interest, as we know, and I know you had some agenda items today about expanding and trying to help people set up family daycare, so we very much appreciate that effort. The arrow to the right says the number of daycare homes overall, and you'll see that reduction over the years, and that's our concern, of course, is that our community continues to grow, the need grows, and our people willing to do this hard work is going down. And so, again, your forethought in trying to say, can we help people stand up this service really does hit a need of ours, for sure. And then child foster care, another licensing area, so these are both regarding our licensing staff. You'll see in child foster care, newly licensed homes have actually gone up a little bit since last year, and then overall, though, I think we're still concerned about this area of practice, the number of child foster care homes, you see the reduction again at a pretty dramatic on a percentage basis, and so our concern there again is when we have children in need, are people willing to open their homes, in this case, to serve that need for these individuals that to have a lot of behaviors. We were talking on break again about some situations where people are willing to foster or adopt and how hard that challenge can be at times. And I'm sure we all know people that have gone through that. It's one of the most positive parts about our Children and Family Services practice, but it's also not an easy commitment. It's a lifetime commitment. And then the last bubble is just the current, currently we have 12 homes that are licensed for relative foster care. And so that's a situation where a relative would be willing to do that on a temporary basis, so it's kind of a different way to license somebody, but we need to check their home and make sure that everything's on the up and up. Because it is hard when a child's in a vulnerable situation, there's been maltreatment, and you send them to a home where there's maybe other problems. That's really a bad move. So we have to screen that.
So that's like, let's just say somebody's in a foster home for whatever reason, and there's a relative of that person who says, I'm willing to be, like when they need a break for a week or a weekend or whatever,
right.
we can be licensed if you want to license us, and we'll take them in for
and in fact, that would actually, the way you described that particular scenario would be respite, and so we can provide respite to a caregiver if it's foster care or a family member, and so anyone, Commissioner talked about his situation at home, you guys know too that we have a special needs child at home, and we can get respite if we need to go on a vacation or just somebody to watch over our son. And so that same principle is used in foster care, is that the foster parent can get respite, or if a relative family member is willing to take them into their home, we start there and say, is any relatives available that would be willing to take this child in? If so, we can offer them respite, that they don't have, they can get a break. They can take a vacation if they need it. So that's another component as well. The next slide is heavy on a fiscal picture, but of course the service is about families again, and you'll see at the top left Child Care Assistance Program, so that's what we refer to it as, the acronym CCAP. So this is basic sliding fee. It's the one with the most volume that goes through based on a sliding fee of how people qualify, and you'll see just the monthly report there, but at the bottom of the page is where we can kind of get a sense of where we're at. It says direct service allocation, that box at the bottom, $877,000. The actuals, $750,000, and so annualize that to a projection of $900,000. We're overspent by $23,000, 102% of our allocation. I can say this is a bit of that hard part to manage. We almost always get that covered, but it's not guaranteed. So you can overspend, and if there's extra resources at the end, there's kind of a settlement process. But as you can imagine, in our business minds, it's a gamble. And so we're out there. What we had to do for the first time in many, many years is start a waiting list. We were cut, our allocation was cut $53,000 this last year, and our waiting list is 127 families that would qualify, but are waiting for a slot to open up. So we had to kind of put the brakes on here. And we've been there before. And to be honest, if we're right on the verge of spending what we have, that's kind of the goal always, to even out our spreadsheets. But that kind of waiting list, I'd like to see that reduced by quite a bit, at least by half if we could. And then they'll refigure the whole formula, and we'll get a new allocation next year. And this will go again, as we'll try to live to that margin, whatever they give us. But then there's always this give and take, and the waiting list is probably a reality, at least for the foreseeable future.
So these are families that are possibly working, but they just don't make a lot of money, and they qualify for some help.
Exactly.
To have their child, so they can work?
Perfect. Yep. Okay. That's the mission, is so that they can work. That's right. Or go to school.
Go to school.
Yep. Those two issues. If Chair and Board is willing, I just walk you through quickly the Human Service Advisory Committee minutes. Obviously, the things that are written can be read, but you'll see that we did spend time on the child protection issue, which is one that we want to be out front with and try to provide as much information as we can as far as what we are currently doing, and if there are pieces of feedback or adjustments to be made, that we're certainly open to that. Just for a point of information, that Ann Broskoff came and did a presentation to our group, which I think is a really good representative group. We have a school board member, we have a school social worker in our group, group. We have a lawyer in our group. So, I mean, it's a nice cross-section of some of the people in our community. She went over intake screening, the screen in and the screen out process. So I'm not going to go through all that with the board today, but I just wanted to make you aware that we did cover all that ground. It was a really good dialogue. You mentioned that we've changed our format and made it a little broader and more open, and so we were talking for an hour and a half on this subject. So it was a really good discussion. I think it does fit some of that voice that we're hearing of tell us how this works. And we can't go into the case specific, as you all know, but we can, examples and talk through situations like that. There were, the school person in particular was very complimentary of some of encouraging about the difficulty of the work. And I do want to say to the staff level, the staff's felt very supported because it's hard. There's pressures on both sides of this issue, as we know. And so it's a very difficult piece of our practice. We talked a little bit. Yes, please.
Just because of the rest of the board here too, Vance and I were more involved with that discussion we had with Ms. Jones Shostag.
Right.
We wrote a piece in the paper of concern, and we had a great meeting. Bob and Vance and I and you and your staff that work with child protection, and the meeting went longer than we probably had anticipated.
Right.
But it was a great meeting, and I think it comes down to, and I thought about that later on, is that people just don't know.
Right.
You know what goes into the process once there's something that's turned in like that, and the vetting process, I guess you could call it, or the due diligence.
Right.
And it was reassuring, to hear what our county staff do, and you could tell that they are all very committed and very much involved, with what they do. Otherwise, I can't imagine you'd want to keep doing it.
No, it's a very tough practice.
It's a tough area, to try to see what's going on in these families, and a lot of times the families just need some assistance too.
Right.
They're going through hard times or having some issues, and so I'm just trying to inform the board that we had quite a dialogue, which led into your dialogue with the Human Services Advisory.
Right, and we just want to keep that up front, and we've communicated to some of you about the fact that there's a child protection team meeting that meets, and any mandated reporter can come to that meeting. We wanted to make that more clear, so we've posted that, but we do want the word to get out that anybody in the school system that wants to come, again, we can't be case specific, but we can talk about examples. That's not a problem.
There's no fear there. Being able to talk about how the process goes.
Exactly.
And I think it's okay that this rose to the occasion, because you're busy in the trenches doing all this work, and so it kind of becomes now I'm bothered with this.
Right.
But it's because there's sometimes a lack of awareness.
Right.
But also it's good to hear what somebody else might have to say, because I know that this person,
absolutely,
Ms. Shostag, worked in guardian ad litem type of things.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's been a teacher for many years.
Right.
And then, of course, we had former Senator Kathy Sharon that was part of the discussion.
Right.
And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter that takes energy and time that we have to,
Right.
But I think it's good that people are concerned enough to say something.
Right.
Yeah.
I reassure all of you that my feeling about that commitment from our staff is there, and certainly feel like it should be as transparent as far as how hard we're willing to work for this mission. I think those people that have shared input, people in the advisory committee, they care too. And so it's that common ground, like everyone, I think, is motivated by trying to make something better. And I would never say, even though I'm very proud of the work we do, that we've got it all covered, that we can't improve. I don't believe that that's a good place to be. And so I think we can always improve and adjust and try to, talk about what choices we have. Some of those choices that Senator Sharon was involved with is changing some of that criteria, and I do think that our staff have to use that so that people are treated in a reliable way, so that if one case comes in, another case comes in, that those aren't all over the map. And so I think that some of this comes down to what is the charge of what we're wanting to do, and that happens at a state level. That's where that's at. So
I think some of the biggest conflict came is talking transparency and then talking data privacy.
Right.
And some of the issues that were brought up came across because the county can't explain to some of the the folks that give these issues, they can't tell them because of data privacy issues what's going on. And I think that's where Ms. Shostag had some issues because she didn't quite understand that, she made these complaints and she wasn't hearing the whole story, and we couldn't tell her the whole story. But it really helped me. I know it helped Commissioner Campbell to understand what our county is going through and how good our employees are. After I came through that meeting, and like you said, it was a couple-hour meeting after the whole thing, I was so proud of our employees and what we do for these issues, that we do it right. I mean, we're on the lead across the state. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. They really felt that, and I did want to pass that along to all of you. I think they felt that support. And again, that doesn't mean that we have it all right, but we're open and we want to be transparent about our practice. But that distinction the Commissioner just made is the big one, is we can talk about the process. We cannot be case specific with that, and I understand that's a frustration. I did say, Commissioner Brunder on break, that Ann, our supervisor, has been willing, though, too, as if people in the community hear about this issue now that it is on the front burner and have questions, that she's willing to take those phone calls and make that personal. And so she's been very clear with me about that. And so I just share that openly, that if you get calls or questions.
Or Ann Broskoff.
Right. The best way to deal with that is probably go right to that place where Ann can hopefully explain, again, our process, probably not be able to go into all the details of the case. But I understand how somebody could make a report as a mandated reporter. I was a mandated reporter, still am, and not feel like you see what happened, what fully happened. And so that we can certainly make sure that people know that their report was received and that basic outcome. There's a lot of options we have about how to serve. I know Commissioner Campbell, you've been asking about, on the screen out part of this meeting minutes, you'll see just a short list of voluntary services. So even when people don't meet criteria for maltreatment, that because of the incident it doesn't rise to that doesn't mean that we don't try to follow up and offer some core services through social services. That's integrated care. That's part of my job, is to make sure that they do handoffs in other areas that can help these folks.
And I think one of the concerns they had was that you offer all these services, but then they just say, we don't, thank you, go away.
Right.
What do we do then?
Right.
Well, what do you do?
Right.
I mean, that is a dilemma.
It is.
Because some people don't see government as a friend.
Right.
And so it's too bad if we can't get them to maybe look at maybe where they might need some help with chemical dependency or need some help with their mental health or something like that,
Right, absolutely. I'm sure our county attorney's office is a partner in this with us through the whole way, but we can certainly testify that there's pressures on both sides. There's people that feel we push way too hard and are way too involved in their families. We've received that feedback regularly since I've been in this chair, and we've also received this other feedback that says, hey, can we do more? Can we practice better? Can we offer more? And so where that balance is the art and the difficulty of this practice, and it's what we've been talking about for quite a while. I hope the conversation continues.
Yeah, and the county's only one piece of everything.
Right.
We've got all kinds of nonprofits out here in our community that deal with children
directly,
that have all kinds of programs and that do a lot of assistance, even including our community ed and rec department with the school district.
Right.
They do a lot of good things, offer supports to the families and things to do.
Absolutely.
To try to help educate.
I mentioned foster care, and the last part of that discussion at advisory committee was child protection case management. Sometimes that gets lost, but we do offer assessment for people that have ongoing needs. Case managers have what we call ongoing caseloads, and so we do work with families in the long haul when that's needed. And then permanency is just about making sure that there's a final disposition about these children's needs is back with home, or if they need to be put in foster care, or the adoption mission that we have as well. So comments on that. And then I just think what's important about advisory committee is just to show you the hot topics. So mental health task force, vouchers for rental assistance is really the first bullet. School-linked mental health services, another hot topic. And obviously our new crisis center location over by the Justice Center. Social Service Task Force, we have an audit going on today. We need to get back for that. And second bullet is just that we are going paperless in social services. That's new for us. We've been paperless in financial assistance and child support for a number of years, but now we're going to try to really take most of the rest of our agency through that process. There was a guest speaker for the Backpack for Food program. And also, the very last bullet is kind of a neat thing to see, but the task force get their hands dirty literally, and they cleaned out our family room, and they do this on a regular basis. It is a deep cleaning, and it needs it, and the toys all get washed and sterilized, and so it's really kind of special to have the community come and kind of give back to government as well, and so it's a very touching piece that's very heartfelt. I also just wanted to share, I know Commissioner Campbell probably talked about this, but we did get this recognition, this certification of excellence for the Joey process. I saw the pictures that you sent out, but it's really nice. Staff was able to receive this award, but I just wanted to bring it back full circle because I think it was a nice initiative that Commissioner really helped us be part of, and really what our part was, there is some resources to give people a sober ride home was part of the mission. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thanks for saying that too. It's nice. Thanks for doing it.
You bet. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Quick question, real quick, just before I forget though. There's 64 vouchers. It says it lists Rice, which is not close to us, and it lists Olmsted, which is even farther.
Right.
What is the story with that? I mean, those 64 get divided between the 3 counties, or what?
Right. It's really true. And the housing mission is separated into regions, and they're big regions. So we had a map, and I think maybe a work session we had that out. But they do get divvied out over a large geographic area.
So those 62 don't go to us.
Right, not just
we get
right.
We might get 20 of them.
And it's based on need and disability, and I think this one is under 65 or 62.
Under 62.
Yeah, so there's a criteria points to all of that as well. But yeah, housing is much more like when we talk about regionalized services, housing is organized that way for sure.
Oh, okay. Until Darren, we missed him.
I will do that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think as well, I think, Phil, to point out that, and the county attorney's office utilizes this as well, but the community resources for families manual that Human Services has come up with to connect families, clients with resources in the community as well. And so that's a manual that is available to the public, and we do utilize that as well. Yep.
Is it electronic, or is it?
Yeah, it is. It's posted in, I see Nicole has it up here, but it is. You know that sometimes the danger of those is that the minute you publish it or have it out there, it needs to be updated. But it is our attempt. It beats nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I do hope that and if it's not updated, let us know.
It was just updated November of 2018.
Oh my goodness. What?
He's on the spot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Well, good. We've got some business coming up here. We've got Lisa Malinsky with us today, our finance director. Come on up, Lisa, and help us with some business that we've got before the board.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Lisa.
I have saved up.
What's that?
I've saved up items for.
Yeah, I see that you got 3 items here.
I do have 3 items. The first one being the audit service contract. We had a auditor selection committee. We had talked to you about it in a work session to go forward with looking at a new auditor. We have chose Clifton Larson Allen. They have a local office in Mankato and a regional office also around Rochester and Austin. So the good news is they will start our audit at the end of 2019. So we'll have an engagement letter, next year. And it was not to exceed $45,000, which was a very good amount. When we look at what we've paid the state auditors over the last 10 years, the high in 2008 was actually close to $95,000, and a few years ago it was $65,000. So it's ranged between those amounts. So comparing it to last year's audit of $85,000, as I told you in the memo, that's a 47% savings
Yeah.
in audit fees.
Amazing.
So it'd be interesting going forward, the Larson Allen will find out how many hours they have to put in and decide if they're going to change the contract or not the next time
And they
around.
did give us amounts over the next 5 years.
The same amount?
It
Or not?
goes up a little bit.
It does?
So there's a little bit of an inflation.
Okay.
They did give us the amount for the next 2 years, and then after that, I think it's like a % increase of only like 2%.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we're still looking at a pretty good amount for the next
Yeah.
5 years.
And I think the state auditor's office had like a, sort of a flat rate, but then I think they did an hourly rate. After that, they had like an hourly rate. So some years we had 900 hours of service, some years we had about 1,000 hours of service or something, and so it changed.
We did analyze it, and
Yeah.
the state auditors do put in a lot more time.
Yeah.
And of course, they have to bill us for their time. They can't give us a not-to-exceed amount that the certified public accounting firms can.
Okay, yeah.
So,
I will move to approve.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion for approval and a second. Motion from Commissioner Stormberg and a second from Commissioner Purvis for going with the, I guess you'd call it a private auditing service with Clifton Larson Allen.
yes.
Any comments or questions?
Nope. This takes the place of the state auditor.
Yeah, and have we ever gone private before, or is this the first time ever, do you
This
think?
is the first time there was legislative
Right.
action that allowed us to do that. Before, you would have to ask permission
Okay,
in order to leave the state auditor.
okay. All right. Any other comments? Okay,
Savings, you can't beat that.
so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
The next item I have is an updated electronic funds transfer policy. That's on page 77 of your pack. The state auditors recommended that we actually put in our policy the bottom of the document. It's just some policy controls, which we were performing anyway, but they actually wanted it in our policy. So that, and also annually, the board needs to delegate the authority to make county expenditures or electronic fund transfers
yeah.
to a designated chief financial officer. So we also need that annually.
And so we're just approving this policy then today.
Yes.
I'll move approval. Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Brunder and second from Commissioner People on this electronic funds transfer policy with these items A through E at the bottom there listed, right? That you were mentioning.
Yes.
Is there any discussion or comments?
Nope.
Deal here. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
The last item I have is an updated procurement policy, which we needed to change the dollar amounts for competitive process with changes by the legislation. So it used to be that you had to bid anything over $100,000, and now it's up to $175,000. And they also changed the requirements for performance bond for items instead of over $100,000. That has also increased over $175,000. I would like to point out in this policy that you might want to look at the authority levels. Right now, our county administrator, Bob, can approve anything over $100,000, so we kind of made that in line with the old bid requirement, and maybe you want to look at also increasing that up to $175,000. Right now, we just need to approve this before the end of the year since it has changed this year. We do have some things that we need to change in the table of contents too, to increase that amount that we kind of missed. when this document went to you. So we'll be changing the table of contents also.
Oh, I see.
So if we made a motion, would we have to add in there to increase it up to 175 with the motion?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I would suggest we have some further dialogue at a work session before those authority levels are
this policy passed.
just to get it in alignment with state statute, and then we could have some further discussion about whether you're comfortable with adjusting those authority levels.
Then I will make a motion to pass this policy.
So a motion for approval from Commissioner Struenberg and a second from Commissioner Brunder for this policy change on the amount levels. Is there any discussion or comments? I've got a question.
Okay.
Technically, would we have to do it? I mean, if the board didn't want to change those to 175,000, we wanted to keep it at the rate it was, would we have to do it, or is it just if they're allowing for this change?
They are allowing for the change.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I just wanted to point that out as a clarification to the board.
Yeah, it is
It's not
less
something that has to
work,
be done.
which is less cost going
Yeah.
through the bidding process.
Yeah.
But they're letting you go up to the 175,000.
Right. Because I know that sometimes this comes up as a topic from the general public when they ask questions about, well, what are the limits for getting competitive bids? How come this, or they might say, how come this company's always getting all the contracts? Or how, those kinds of things do happen to us as board members, and we're representing the general public. And so I think when these things come before the board, we got to think about, if this went up to 250,000, or if this went, at one point, do we want to say, no, we need to have have our eyes on this stuff and see what's going on, number one. Number two, even if the state's allowing for a larger amount before it has to go competitive bid, we want to see competitive bids because we believe in the process of having competitive bids. And so that's a philosophical approach or a philosophical view that the board, could discuss. And I think that's why Bob brought up the fact that it should probably go to a work session if we were going to hand over a further amount for the administrator to be able to approve for purchasing or for contract signing. I just think that helps to get that out there.
And Mr. Chair, do we always have that option if we did have something that we thought was a little more sensitive that we could go to bids? I mean, this is just for the price. So that option's still always there.
You could request it.
Correct.
We're not giving up that right to go to bids.
Right.
This is just probably more of the day-to-day operation thing that we do, and you got to keep
you look at
things
some
going.
contracts, which are very high amounts, your road projects, some other items that's millions of dollars. There's already exceptions for some contracts in this policy. Professional services is an exception to that.
I think the fear of the general public is that the county might end up hiring just one or two companies to do all the work. If that's it's happening, but that's a little fear.
There's still other
sometimes.
requirements, under the 100,000 that you need to meet. I mean, you can't just go with one person. You have to get quotes.
You have to get quotes. It's just
there's other
I saw that. Yeah.
processes in place.
I bumped into somebody out in Washington D.C. on the train, and her entire job, in fact, her company, one of the major services they provide is they do the procurements. They help counties and cities. Of course, I think larger counties and larger cities have their own people do all these procurements and vetting process and doing all that stuff so that it doesn't necessarily come before the staff or the board as often. They kind of have their own way of handling those processes. And I had no idea that there's companies actually that's their full-time job just doing those kinds of things. But they're looking for the best deals they can too, providing quality services. But, any other comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Lisa. Thank you and your staff.
You're welcome.
For all the backroom stuff that we don't see. Well, it is. I call it back office. I mean, I don't know. You want to call it the front office? What would you call it, Bob?
Shine a little sunshine. It is back office functions.
Yeah, I think it's called back office. Okay, so
Next item we've got here are administrative services, unless I missed something. We're all right?
I think that's where we're at, Mr. Chair. The first item will be the county board minutes for November 13th.
I'll move the minutes.
Okay, we've got the minutes in our packet. We've got a motion from Commissioner Purvis and a second from Commissioner Sturenberg. Are there any corrections or additions?
Wasn't loud enough.
What? Did I say the wrong person?
No,
That's okay.
I'm sure that's the way it was.
Did I miss somebody?
No, it's okay.
Nope. Well, who do you got, Jesse?
No, it's okay.
I changed it to Sturenberg.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
We're good. Everybody voted, so
Well,
we're good.
my left ear can hear better than my right ear, I think. I don't know.
We're good. We have a motion and a second.
Yep. Any comments or corrections? Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Now we're going on to the bills of the week. We've got 2 weeks, starting November 18th through November 21st.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
We got a motion for approval, Commissioner Strumberg, and a second from Commissioner People. Any comments or questions about transactions? I just had a couple.
Okay.
So week 1, Contractors Edge Incorporated for contracted services for $19,837.
That is work that was done on JD 43, so a ditch project.
It is? Okay, so the Contractors Edge Incorporated it's not an insurance company of any type?
No, it's working on land issues or...
Oh, okay. Because I had heard about them once, and I looked it up to just confirm it. I thought in the same name, it's a company that provides things like workman's comp and contractors insurance for liability and things like that. So I was
this was
why we
work on
would
a
be doing
ditch.
that. Okay. And then there's a Mathewitz project there, of course, for more than 1.5 million, and I just...
County Road 1.
County Road 1, yeah, I know, I just... Southern Minute Construction to 314,000.
That is County Road 12. The
The last
extension.
part there?
Yes.
Okay. Then the second week was the drug impairment detection services, and it's called Other Fees. It's Drug Impairment Detection Services for $39,500 even.
I believe Josh Milo has mentioned to the board about the substance use monitoring, the iScan technology that is being used. So that's the purchase of that service to do substance abuse monitoring of people in the community corrections unit.
So this will be a recurring thing every year?
I believe so.
Instead of...
So we used to contract with another organization to have a staff person to do blood draws and those sorts of things, so this will replace some of that cost.
Oh, okay, because I thought we did some of our own testing too in-house, but we don't anymore.
Well, we did it in-house through a contractor.
It was? Oh, okay. Okay. RDO equipment, we bought some equipment for $86,623. RDO.
That is a backhoe loader that was purchased by the Public Works Department.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Nope. Okay. All those in favor of the transactions, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, item number 9 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We just have informational items for you today. We had 2 promotions, one legal assistant in the county attorney's office, and then communication center administrator position. One of the dispatch sergeants was promoted into that role. And so because of that promotion, we have initiated recruitment to fill a 911 dispatcher. We also have filled a couple of custody officer positions, as well as a temporary deputy patrol officer as a part of that grant that we're receiving. And then we had a change in employment status for one of our temporary patrol officers, so kind of a domino effect of that individual was promoted to a deputy patrol officer. We also had another promotion from a financial assistance specialist to a child support officer in the Human Services Department, and so we've initiated recruitment of that backfill along with 2 other positions in financial assistance where the individuals will be completing their careers with Blue Earth County at the end of the year. And then you'll see a number of other recruitments that have been initiated, and all of those are related to the early retirement program. And so we're here at the end of the year where a lot of those individuals are ending their careers with the county, and we'll have a lot of activity for our Human Resources Department to refill those positions. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any comments? Comments, anybody? The other one I have is that with on D, it has that Denny Schlemmer, custody officer, with a starting salary of $19.49. Is that the starting salary now in the jail?
Yes, for full-time staff.
It's up to $19.49.
Right.
Oh. Okay. Anything else? All right. Well, we don't have to do anything with this stuff. It's just information, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Thank you. So then we've got, thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Commissioners' reports. Who would like to start? Anybody?
Mine's relatively short.
Okay. Go ahead.
Perspective, I guess. After our last board meeting, we had our solid waste tour, which we were all on, and that was very informational. Always nice to see those organizations and how our new buildings are working out, and then get refreshed on the household hazardous waste and the services we provided out there. Then that evening I had a child development meeting with MVAC, and that's going along really well. They had to elect a new chair, and they just kind of go through the program that they have through MVAC with child development, and it's a group of constituencies from around the county, or actually 9-county area. So did a MICA phone conference. We didn't get up there in person, but things are going well there. We're starting to approve our platform for next year's lobbying efforts with the state legislator. Had our emergency communication board, which we hadn't met for about a year, so we thought it'd be a good idea to get together. We had 1 or 2 grants to approve, got them done, and just got updates from all of the different committee assignments from the organization. That afternoon we had our EMS board, and Mark's got everything moving along pretty well there. We're working through our strategic plan and trying to almost minimize or do less services through that organization. We only have 1 staff person, and it's just getting very difficult for Mark. Well, there's 2, but the other staff person works on our child safety seat program primarily. So Mark's trying to run the whole EMS system. So the group's just getting a little spread too thin, so we're trying to figure out some things that we don't necessarily need to do that maybe somebody else can do, the Towards Zero Death or something, to keep the program going but have someone else deal with it. So we're getting to the end of that process. Had our MVAC meeting, full board meeting. Congratulated the commissioners that got reelected and are going to stay on the board. Things are going fairly well there. Nothing new to report. The audit went really well. No findings, so that was always good to hear. And then we had our new employee orientation this morning, which is always a pleasure to visit with the new employees and let them know that I'm the senior member, but the youngest member on the staff.
You had to bring it up again, didn't you?
That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, who would like to be next?
I'll take it.
Okay, Vance.
Well, as we talked before, after our last board meeting, we had a solid waste tour out of Ponderosa. On the 14th, I went to Tony Knapp's funeral, to wake, and Tony was a large contributor to both the city of Mankato and Blue Earth County. He was chair of the corrections board and for years. November 15th, I had a TDS board meeting. On November 19th, I had a magic meeting for our finances up in St. Cloud. November 20th, I had a NACO Central Region call-in. November 26th, which was yesterday, I had a diversity board, and let them know that that was my last board meeting that Colleen Landcamer would be taking over afterwards. And then this morning I had an airport commission before we had our new employees, and that's it for me.
Well, thank you. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, Will?
Yes, we talked about the solid waste tour. That was an excellent tour. I really enjoyed that. And then on the 14th, I had the Wan River Watershed meeting in St. James. We're getting going on that, to have some public meetings and get some input on that water plan. Then on the 16th, I attended a meeting in Winnebago. They're working on putting together a high school down there. It sounds like a charter school type thing that is catered more towards the young people that want to go into the trades. So several elected officials there. And we had a good discussion, about 100 people there, so there's a lot of interest in that. And on the 19th, I had a law library board meeting, and we talked about, I think there's still a deficit in that fund, isn't there, Bob?
I believe so.
And we talked about canceling some subscriptions. We visited with the attorneys in the area and what they use and what they don't use, so we're canceling some subscriptions. We decided to see how the full effect of the $4 increase to $4 would be, and then if so, we can increase it in July again if that doesn't take care of it. But I think we got that pretty well put together. So, yesterday I was at the Rural Minnesota Energy Board meeting and the PACE committee meeting down in Slayton. We had a good meeting. We had a presentation from someone from the St. Paul Port Authority that also does PACE loans, and they gave us some ideas on some of the things that they're doing that make their program go. And getting ready to, we passed the budget for next year. It sounds like the dues will be the same, $2,500, so they're in good financial position. And then, of course, the new employee orientation this morning. So
sounds good. I think
He's taking notes back there too, I think.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, Mark, thank you.
November 13th, had a landfill tour, which is always good. I've been in the recycling building for a while. It was a good tour. Then on the 13th, actually, Bob and I, we were at the GMG Hall of Fame, the Business Awards up at the college. And then on the 14th, the following, did go to the ISG appreciation little get-together they had at downtown in the new, I think it's called the Events Center or whatever, across the street from them. Then on November 15th, had a Partners for Affordable Housing meeting, our monthly, and we're gearing up with, we got our, it always seemed like always have to have a little fundraiser, but we're gearing up for a big pedal pass party. February fundraiser, which is our biggest one. And we were successful in getting a couple of little grants and stuff, but anyway, it's moving along, and that is my report. Besides today, then this morning, which was a good time with the new employee sessions. But
yeah,
that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, thank you, Commissioner People. My report then too, of course, our last meeting, November 13th, and that's where we also set the ditch levies for the next year, and we had Child Advocacy Center grant application approved, and I think we had a quick work session to go over the commissioner committee assignments with Colleen Landcamer, all of us, remember that? And then lunch at Rounders, solid waste tour, which we had in the afternoon with Scott Fickner and the staff. It was a good full day, of things to do. On the 15th, Thursday, we had the County Parks Advisory Committee meeting up at Public Works. So, of course, our supervisor with that is Josh Downey, and We had our Public Works Director, Ryan Tilgis, there. And at that meeting, we also accepted 2 new people on the committee. And so they're very involved, and they love to go to use our parks. And one thing I wanted to say is I've been asking for quite some time to see if we could get some more new picnic tables. I found out they ordered some new picnic tables. So thank you, Bob, and thank you, Ryan. And I think it's 18 maybe, I can't remember.
Good.
Sounds about right.
18 large, nice picnic tables, the kind you can slide into, so if you're handicapped a little bit, or it's easier to get in. And then Friday, November 16th, oh, by the way, that'll be my last Parks Board advisory meeting, too. So.
When is that?
Pardon? We had it last week.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my last one.
That's your last one.
Yep, so whoever's... November 16th, of course, MDH, we had SHAC conference call-in. Instead of using a regular call-in, we use a virtual meeting application on the computer, and it's a video, VIDYO. So you can have as many people as you want on the screen. You can kind of adjust things. If you want to access a file on your computer and share it with everybody, you can click on there, and it's a good format. We had kind of not as high a turnout as I was hoping for, but it was for our executive committee with SHAC, our statewide state-local partnership effort for Minnesota Department of Health. And then Monday, the 19th, I attended our local Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association meeting. We reviewed some things going on in our park, which if you've noticed the new park going in down in Stoltzman and Pleasant. Tuesday, November 20th, NACO Central Regional Conference call-in with Cindy Bobbitt from Grant County, Oklahoma. And there were some legislative updates talking about the races, talking about the changes up at Capitol Hill. We got 15 seat advantage apparently in the Dems for the House. And then in the Senate, there's I believe it's a 3 or 4 seat advantage. I think one of them still has to be decided.
Here?
Yeah, for Republican. No, for the Congress. Yeah. And then, let's see here. The other issue they're talking about is we have to get the government funded by December 7th. So they need a continuing resolution or something done by then, which is coming up pretty fast here. November 21st, Joyride recognition event, and it was mentioned by our Human Service Director. I also received one. I believe in the program, and so I guess I received one. I give $100 a year to help with that program.
Oh, nice.
And that's just to help with the sober rides on specific nights when a lot of people are out having a good time. And I wanted to thank, of course, our attorney's office because and Pat came and recognized him for their very good support, which has helped us fund this thing. It's been a 2-year project, so we got to start finding some more funding again for the next 2 years. But thank the county and our county human services who helps to continue to fund it too. Some local establishments have given a few $100s each, and I'd like to mention that Tao Distributing has given us significant money towards the program. So it's pretty nice that they do that. Eagle Lake is very involved. Madison Lake, they utilize the program quite a bit for their, what's it called, Tater Days?
Tater Days in Eagle Lake and Paddlefish Days.
You got it. Apparently they get a lot of turnout. The last couple of years we've had over 375 rides. So you can imagine if you saved one life from a severe injury or death, it's worth it. It's pennies on the dollar because the loss of a human life in a car accident has been measured to millions of dollars to that community. And then moving on, let's see here. We've got Thursday and Friday holiday Thanksgiving. Tuesday, today we had our employee orientation, which I think is a wonderful thing. But this afternoon we've got a fall employee recognition event from 1:30 to 3. I wanted to remind all of us are going to be there again, I think on the 3rd floor here. The old courthouse?
It's going to be here in the Commissioner's room, isn't it?
Is it here?
It's here.
Oh, it's in this room?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So there was no direction on that. I didn't know where we were. Okay, so we'll be right here. And then we're going to be recessing also to Midtown Tavern for lunch.
Here.
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 Thank you very much.
I'll move to recess.
We got a motion for recess, second?
Yeah, we're waiting for Trey to give us our...
Yeah, Trey, what do we got?
We got a recess.
Well, gentlemen, I can tell you that when the commissioner report started, I had 3 minutes left on my 2-hour parking spot in front of the government center.
Oh.
I am sure my car is now towed.
No.
We actually did pretty good. Commissioner Campbell is the outlier of the group at 5 minutes and 27 seconds.
Oh, boy.
But Mark, you had 1 minute and 7 seconds. Vance had 1 minute and 9 seconds. So you barely beat him.
Wow.
We have an even closer margin. Commissioners Brunder and Purvis. Brunder had 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Purvis had 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Oh, my goodness. I gotta cut down a little.
You're overdoing it.
Boy. Gotta talk faster.
I think this is comical that we...
No, we didn't vote yet on recess.
Probably voting on the motion.
Oh, do we have to? I'm just declaring that we're going there for...
Okay.